read a quote recently by the writer Henry David Thoreau that says, "The true price of anything is the amount of life you exchange for it." Over the past month, I've been recording how I spend my time. I'm in currently what feels to me like a very, very busy season of life. Lots of small children and babies. We've moved houses recently, and we're doing, as you'll see a little bit of in this video, many DIYs. I've become even more determined to make the majority of our food from scratch and sort of just opt us out of the industrial food system. And there are just lots of things happening in the background, as I'm sure is the case with you and with everyone. It feels like I have a lot of responsibilities, and I sort of got to a point where I felt like I was always one step behind where I needed to be. And so I decided to track how I spend my days on an hourly basis, so literally writing down how I spend each hour to see where any wasted pockets of time were, if there were any, because I felt like I really wasn't wasting any time. But now that I've been tracking for a few weeks, I can see areas where I could probably change things a little bit. I'm still actually tracking my time, so I'll probably have more to say on all of this once I figure out how to use the information I get from this for myself. But it's gotten me thinking a lot about Thoreau's quote. How do I make sure that I know what my priorities are right now? And how do I set up a life that is true to living out those priorities? So I want to talk about some of what I am prioritizing, and they really aren't unique in any way, but I do think they're important. So I'm trying to live smaller, so buying food from local sources when it's accessible and affordable. I have plans to build a container garden in our new yard to help us reduce the cost of food and be able to eat our own food as opposed to relying on food systems that are motivated by profit. I'm going to get started on these containers pretty soon here actually to get the soil prepped for springtime. I'm planning out what I want to grow. I only want us to grow food that we'll eat. And I really want to maximize how much food we can grow, so I'm taking a bit of time to properly plan it out and really think it through. The next thing I'm prioritizing is to repair what we already have instead of buying new stuff, or even buying stuff from charity shops, thrift stores. I find that when I buy things from thrift stores, I can sort of treat it as disposable because it costs so little to begin with. And so I'm actually just trying to avoid buying new stuff, even if it is from thrift stores. I mentioned that we moved into a new house, and there are so many things that I want to redo and update and fix and change. And I've been getting quotes from these people who can help us with everything, and I've learned that the only way we're going to be able to do all those things is if we do it ourselves slowly over time. It's certainly not possible to do everything right away, and I don't necessarily have the skills to do all the changes I want to do right away, so I'll have to learn and experiment. And so this is a season of life where there are things everywhere I look that I want to do and change, but I just can't do it all. And so I have to learn to be patient and just chip away at those things when I have time, little by little, something every day. And I know that in a year, major progress will have been made. And the last priority that I'll mention, although there are a few others, is to develop more of a relationship with our local community. It's something that I think it's actually easy to lose when you have small kids, despite the playgroups and the meetups. I just find that I'm being pulled in so many different directions. It's harder to develop deeper relationships with people, but I think that's why I'm trying to prioritize it, because it's important. I think when communities are strong, a lot of other things in our societies get better. And one way I've been trying to do this is for Christmas this year, I've been making friends, and even people who really aren't friends, but who I see regularly at playgroups or whatever, I've been making things for them. So I've been baking bread a lot recently, and my recipe makes a double batch. So I tend to give the extra loaf to someone outside the family. I've also been giving tinctures to friends. These are things that I know are made with great ingredients, that some of which I've foraged locally. I know they're healthy and helpful. They don't contribute to cluttering up people's houses. And people have really seemed to appreciate these kinds of gifts far more than store-bought stuff. I think we're all a little bit burnt out on just the overwhelming amount of stuff that we could buy. I think when somebody looks you in the eye and says, here's a loaf of bread for you, it's a very human gift. It's sustenance, it's food that you've prepared for them. Or if you give them an herbal remedy or, infused calendula oil, using calendula flowers that you grew in your garden, it makes the thing thoughtful, special. You can't really buy it. And I think people are really craving that sort of attention, that sort of community. While I have a few hours to myself, I'm going to make a coffee and then prepare a few gifts for friends, and then do about 30 minutes of home renovations for the day. That's about the amount of time I have for these DIYs, so I'm going to get 30 minutes of time to chip away at the house. I recently had an appointment with an herbalist from the Scotland-based collective of herbalists, Grassroots Remedies. I wanted to speak with an herbalist to see what supplements I could take to help with my energy levels. I drink a lot of nettle tea, which is packed with minerals and vitamins. I take elderberry syrup and a lot of other supplements, but I wanted to see what else I could potentially take. And the woman I spoke with was super knowledgeable. She formulated a tincture blend for me with ashwagandha, nettle, clover, and a few other herbs that help with energy levels. And I've really found it helpful. If you're in the UK, I definitely recommend checking Grassroots Remedies out. You can book an appointment with an herbalist and talk through any issues you're having, and they'll send out the tinctures to you directly. And we together, for last winter, developed a free guide with 10 herbal remedies that you can make in the winter. And so if you want those recipes, I will link that guide below. I usually just take the tincture dosage straight under my tongue because it's the fastest and easiest. But today, for some reason, I decided to add it to my coffee, and I'd actually recommend not doing this because I could still taste the tincture. Some tinctures don't have as much of a taste, but this one is very strong because it's a blend. And I would recommend, if you are taking a tincture that you don't like the taste of, maybe put it in juice or ice water or something to mask the flavor, but not into a nice coffee if you like the taste of coffee. I'm also going to feed my sourdough starter. My starter has been sitting in our fridge over the past months, and I've mainly been making yeasted breads, but I am going to try to get sourdough back in my daily flow so we can have sourdough loaves again. I do prefer the taste of sourdough to yeasted bread, but sometimes the feeding and maintaining of the starter is just too much for me, even though it's so simple. I really don't make sourdough products daily, and so I forget to feed it, and then it would get super sour. So I decided to retire it for a bit, but now it's out of the fridge, and I'm going to try to get back into the habit of using it. Now I'm going to strain off the elderberry and nettle tinctures that I made back in September, and I'm going to give these to friends. I'll probably split this up into smaller jars and give it to multiple friends, but for now I'm just going to strain it off and then I'll look for the smaller jars. I made these on a video a while back, and it's been about 4 months since I made them, so they're definitely ready to be strained off. You can just leave them longer. You should leave them at least 8 weeks, but it doesn't really hurt to leave them longer. I used dried organic nettle leaf to make the nettle one and dried organic elderberries to make the elderberry one, and I used 80 proof unflavored vodka to steep them in. You'll notice that I actually didn't fill the jar completely to the top with plant material, but all the plant material is completely covered, and that's the main thing with tincture making, is that you want all the plant material below the alcohol, and that's what prevents any spoilage. So I'm going to use a funnel and cheesecloth to strain these tinctures off. It's amazing how after the herbs have been sitting in the alcohol for 8 weeks or longer, the alcohol doesn't really have a strong scent anymore. The alcohol kind of smells like the herb, or it just is a neutral scent. I gave this one a taste to see how it was tasting, and it definitely tasted like nettle infused alcohol, which it is, so that is a good sign. I was trying to show the beautiful emerald green color of this tincture when it sits for the full 8 weeks, but it was kind of hard to show on the camera. I added it to this pickle jar for now. I'll look around my house and see if I have any smaller glass jars to actually gift this tincture in, but I added a label there to the top so I wouldn't forget what it is. You'd be amazed how easy it is to forget what tinctures you have on the go, because once you start with it, you realize how easy it is, and then you make a ton, and then you forget what is what and when you made each one. So highly recommend getting yourself some masking tape and a Sharpie and just labeling it with the date and the herb name so you don't forget. Then I strained off the elderberry tincture. This one had a really nice fruity scent to it, and it was a beautiful ruby color, which again I couldn't really capture on the camera, but if you make yourself a elderberry tincture, it's a really gorgeous color after about 8 weeks of sitting in the alcohol. Now I'm going to switch gears a bit. I have been chipping away at removing the wallpaper in our kitchen. The wallpaper is what they call wood chip wallpaper here in the UK. There are literal chunks of wood in the wallpaper. I don't know why people use it, but underneath that wallpaper, we also have other layers of wallpaper that I think date back over 100 years. It's very sticky. It's a very slow process. It's very slow going. I was lent this steamer from a friend, and I have the goal of steaming wallpaper for 30 minutes a day. I can't do it any longer than that because I have other things going on, and I think I would slowly go insane because it's just really slow going. It's a skill, I think, to be able to sit with discomfort and staring at this wallpaper in our kitchen that's slowly being removed. I'm trying to reframe it in my mind as a positive thing. Every day there's less of it. Every day we're making progress. So I'm going to start steaming this little section of the wall and see how much I can get off in 30 minutes. I climbed up on our countertop to open our window, because when you're steaming wallpaper, the whole room gets very hot and steamy, and it's important to ventilate. So I opened that window to help with that. You can see I'm using this little tool to remove the wallpaper. I have a bigger tool coming that was recommended by a friend. If you have any recommendations from maybe going through this experience yourself, please put them down in the comments. The reason why I want to remove the wallpaper to begin with is because I love the idea of restoring this apartment, this flat, back to its former glory. As we talked about with priorities, one of my priorities is to use what we have. And when I look around our new home, I see so much potential. I see so many intricate little details that have been maybe painted white or covered up in some way that I would love to just spend time and take care uncovering and restoring back to what they originally looked like. And these walls need mending, they need patching, they might need total replastering. But the first step of seeing what we have is to uncover what's here, look at the condition, and then take time and care to restore it. While I might be, sort of bemoaning the removal of this wallpaper because it's so time consuming and slow, I'm also very grateful to be able to do this. I find it exciting to take off layers of wallpaper and see what's under there. And yeah, I'm just excited about the process. And I'm willing to spend time every day doing this because it's one of my priorities to take care of what we already have. I also noticed above the stove area there was a piece of the wall of the wood chip wallpaper that looked a bit loose. So I just quickly climbed up there and started to remove that section just to see what was there. Yeah, got a little bit removed there. That's what I have for you today. In future videos, I'll keep sharing this process, more tincture recipes, herbal remedies, that sort of thing. If you are wanting to get into making herbal remedies, you can consider signing up for my newsletter. I send out one email a week with recipes and simple tips, and I'll leave a link to sign up for that down in the description below. Thank you for stopping by today and wishing you a happy holiday season, and I'll speak to you in the next video.